Me me mamo moo.
Where'd you learn that?
I learned that in third grade during acting class.
That's not how you pronounce my name.
Mr. Mead. It's Manu.
It's what?
It's Manu. It's Manu.
Why aren't you wearing cats? Why are you in my house?
You're not wearing cats either.
Hey, keep your eyes up here.
Oh shit. My bad. I've done a podcast in like 10 years, actually. No, I did one CJ, but before that, it's been like 10 years.
You were the OG of podcasting.
I was ahead of everyone's time.
What was it called?
The Millennial Podcast.
Did you feature me?
I never featured you.
Why not?
I
wasn't legit back then.
Yeah, I still aren't.
Broke. Unemployed. You finished the rest.
Out of shape.
Let's pick it up tomorrow.
Do you have an intro or something that you want to do?
This is the intro.
Oh my God. It's one of those podcasts. It's like a sexy intro. And like, this is Stefan. He's a very handsome man. He's 6 feet tall.
Okay.
He has 5'11" and a half. I just round up. Don't tell anyone that though. Make sure
you usually when I have guests on here, I dive into like their LinkedIn and my personal history with them, and I give a really flowery intro, but I have no idea what you do or who you are.
I actually don't know either. What you do or what I do? Why are we here? Why aren't we here? So what do I do? So I am 33 years old, first of all. My name is Stefan. I live in Austin, Texas. I've been here for 7 years. I've lived here for basically all of my adult life. And it's been a very interesting time here in Austin. I feel like I've been more creative than I've ever been in my life. And I feel like Austin has really brought that out in me. My day-to-day is basically, I run a mobile app company. So for those that don't know what that means, I don't sometimes even know what that means. I basically just create mobile apps like once a month or every other month, and I throw stuff at the wall and I see what sticks. Been doing that for about 8 years. I never actually told anyone this, but I actually got hired at Apple because of all my apps that I've made before. And I worked at Apple for about 3 months, which is hilarious because I actually got fired from Apple after 3 months due to insubordination. I think I'm just too like innovative and too entrepreneurial for a regular organization. But what I effectively tried to do was recruit all the designers and developers and everyone else to like my own skunkworks studio because I wanted to create like a very innovative. I don't know if you've heard of like I think it's called Lab 126 at Amazon or Google X, but Apple doesn't really have like a skunkworks studio, and I wanted to build my own, and they didn't really like the sound of that, so they just fired me. And getting fired from Apple is actually pretty crazy. Like when you get fired, they don't warn you. They just like excommunicate you from the company. So like they called me one day. They're like, "Hey, you're fired." I'm like, "Okay, cool." I'm like, "Can I go get my stuff?" They're like, "No, you cannot come back in the building." So they actually shipped my stuff back to my house. They're like, "Please send us your house address so we can ship this stuff back to you because you can't come back in."
Wow.
Yeah, Apple's a very interesting place. I mean, I love Apple. It's the most innovative company, but I just didn't see the innovative side of it. I saw the bureaucratic, like boring side of it. So yeah, so I've been doing that for a while, and I got a little not bored with making apps. Like I love making apps and I'm always coming up with new ideas, but I recently got into filmmaking about 2 years ago. I produced my first short film during 48-hour film project, which is a really interesting way to make a film. You basically what you do is you have a team of people and they give you a script. They give you a line to say in the script and a prop to use, and you have to make a film in 48 hours. So I didn't really know how to do that. So I basically just invited a bunch of people to a hotel in the middle of Austin. It was a motel, a very dodgy motel. There were people coming in and out, and there were 10 actors and 10 crew, and Savannah wrote the script in 2 hours, which is insane. And we basically shot it within 24 hours. And I had to edit it for another 12 or whatever. Wow. And that was a lot of fun. And I realized that, like, I guess one of my strong suits is bringing people together and making stuff happen very quickly. I did it before in 2019 with Chicken. It was a social media app that we built in 48 hours. I invited a bunch of hackers and nerds to an Airbnb, and we built this really interesting prototype in 2 days. So it was a lot of fun. And I just feel like I'm good at that and I enjoy it. And it's cool to just work with some of the most intelligent or creative people in the world. And I feel like Austin is that place to do that. So yeah, very long-winded answer to what do I do.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, this is actually going to be a 48-hour podcast.
Yeah. Do not press stop.
We have our caffeine ready. It's actually, what time is it? It's 11:30.
We just started. We're both tired as hell. What do we have before this? Some like Mediterranean food.
That was really good. That's a really good intro. I think a couple more things to add here. Stefan and I had a working relationship. We worked on several startup ideas together. So I refer to him as my co-founder. Stefan has a vast experience. So he's a dual grad from the University of Illinois. So he's a pilot and pre-med biochem. He actually had aspirations of becoming a physician, heavy interest in space medicine, actually, and becoming an astronaut. He is also, he's Austin's second fittest man, because they gave out a trophy for the second place.
Apparently.
Incredibly active, weights. He runs like an animal. Have you done Ironman?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Ironman. And he is usually my partner in all the hikes that I go across national parks. And just recently, we summited Kilimanjaro. So extremely active, very well-rounded in terms of fitness, extremely creative thinker, entrepreneur. And if you stalk him on social media, he's also a doer, feeler, thinker,
dancing, feeling,
human,
all Martian.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing I want to mention too is I started my company called Martian about 8 years ago, back in 2016. That was 7 years ago. I don't even know what year. Is it 2025? You're all right. Yeah, we're getting old, man.
I'm not old. You're old. I feel old. I see all the gray hair on your chin.
Oh my God. Ugh, let's not go there.
Why do you have a goatee?
Back to what I was saying. I started a company called Martian a long time ago, and I initially just wanted to just make cool stuff, but I realized over the past year that I want to turn it into like a global company, kind of like a Coca-Cola or a Virgin, or name your big holding company. If you really think about it, all the large companies actually just hold a bunch of tiny companies. And so that's what I want to do. So right now I'm in the app space, but I'd like to get into films. I'd like to get into music and banking and just create a Martian world. The whole idea behind Martian is, it's hard for me to describe. So I kind of just go off of how I feel about it. Martian is like a feeling that you get, like if you've ever been in like high school and you felt like you had so much value to offer the world, but you didn't feel like anyone really understood you. That's kind of how I think about Martian. It's kind of like my muse from high school and growing up, where I didn't feel like I was enough, or I didn't feel like I fit in. And this is just like my way to express myself to the world. And in every sense, like everyone is a Martian in their own way. So, I really like the name, and I also love Mars and space and the cosmos and the unknown and exploring and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just been my muse. And over the past year, I decided that I want to turn it into like a huge company. And one of the, I guess, tenets of it is thinking differently. So it would be crazy if I turn this company into $1 billion one-person company, because I don't have any employees. I work with contractors, but I don't have any like full-time employees, which is I think it's possible now with all the tools we have out there. And I think to some, like when I talk about it, they like kind of look at me weird, but like I see it, maybe you don't see the same vision I do, but like I think anything is possible out there. So that's another thing too.
I'm glad you touched on that. I think that I forgot who said this, but one of the most interesting tidbits I read about AI was the first, 3 or 4 person or less billion-dollar companies being built right now.
Right.
That's fascinating. Like just the whole Nabal principle of infinite wealth creation, like the trajectory that humanity's on right now, just with the tools at our disposal. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think like defining $1 billion company is also important too, because you could be a $1 billion company and then you IPO and then you go to zero, which a lot of companies do. I think $1 billion company is you're probably profiting somewhere between like hopefully 300 to 500 million a year. And then you have a 2x multiple on that. But everyone defines it differently. Sometimes it's just like shareholder value. I don't think I want to take Martian public at any point. I think it would just be a private company. But then again, strong opinions loosely held.
There we go. That's one of your...
Yeah.
This guy has a lot of aphorisms.
I'm aphorismic.
Look, if you like Mars that much, just leave us, okay? We don't need you here on Earth.
I'm going, man.
Get out of here.
I'll see you later.
How many projects have you done altogether in your life? 40, 50?
Probably 100, dude. Like I
really
worked on so many different types of projects. What did we do together? We sold wall arts together, which was really interesting. So basically like think of like all the art you see online where it's like a picture of something. It's called print on demand. And what you basically do is you start a website and then you put a bunch of images on it. And then you find someone in China who can ship them via e-packet. It takes like 3 weeks to get there. It takes forever. And you basically just put up a bunch of ads on Facebook and you kind of see what sticks, what image sticks and what doesn't. So I've done that with Manu. We we did the caracal sweater, quarter zip.
It was a revolutionary.
Yeah, revolutionary. Basically, what we want to do is revolutionize the quarter zip sweaters. So we had like a whole
17 pockets.
Yeah, we had like so many pockets, and like it was made from like recycled material and all these different things. And it was heathered gray or heathered yellow or heathered blue. I thought it was pretty cool, but at the end of the day, like I don't think we thought it was that innovative. I don't know. I probably would have worn it.
Yeah.
Sun Bear Athletics, Sun Bear leggings. I created a mitten that goes over your hand that allows you to pick up dog poop, and then you like twist it up and throw it away, and it biodegrades in like 2 weeks. I don't know why I didn't go forward with that. I think I just couldn't figure out the margins. I think that's one question you wanted to ask me about is like, what do people get wrong about business?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you see this a lot, but I think the biggest thing about a business is like actually making money. And I really like what thought leader said it in San Francisco. I forgot his name, but he basically said, optimize for product market fit. And like everyone has their own definition of product market fit. And my definition is, and I think most people would agree, Michael Siebel, the previous CEO of Y Combinator, said, he's like, product market fit when you see it. Some examples of it could be your bank account is overflowing with money. Probably the best version of it. Like you can't even keep up with demand. That's how much money is coming to your bank account every day. Explosive growth. Unsustainable growth is a big one too. And I feel like a lot of people don't really understand that. And they kind of just try to do what other people do, which is fine too. The fact that other people are doing it means that there's demand for it. But at the same time, like I think it's more important to be in a blue ocean than a red ocean.
100%.
Like, low competition, high demand. And obviously it's really hard to find those. You got to do a lot of things. So yeah, I've done this probably 100 times now. So
I'm glad you mentioned that because it is so viscerally difficult. I think a lot of people actually just get bogged down by other things. So let's do research about the thing, or let's plan about the thing, or let's strategize about the thing. None of those things are actually doing the thing, right? And I think that makes things really difficult because you're busy, you're occupied, but you're not moving the needle forward on something. Like even the concept you just mentioned, product market fit, there's so many different variations of that phrase. There's product market timing fit, product market team fit. But at the end of the day, like, what is a business supposed to do? It's supposed to solve a problem, deliver value, and return value.
In the form of money, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very interesting landscape right now in terms of investments and how many startups are popping up. There hasn't been a better time in history, I think, to create a company. But simultaneously, like, we hear all about the successes. CB Insights, if you know that site, they publish a fascinating series, which is called Post-Mortem Analyses of Startups. So many fail, and it's like, why? Like even you did 100. Like how many of them succeeded, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of projects. And the one thing I want to elaborate on there is almost every single founder that I've seen make it is just balls to the walls on a side project, really, for like a year or two, like nothing else. It fails, and they do the same thing over and over again until they, actually figure it out.
Yeah, so I have a different take on that. I think like people used to fetishize suffering and struggling, all these things, and like I think you can build a really awesome company and make a lot of money in the most calm way possible. And that's what I'm working on a film right now. That's what I told everyone that I'm working with is like, I don't want to be stressed out making this. Like, how is that fun to be constantly stressed out? And it's like, what type of world do you want to live in? What type of worldview do you want to have about work? Do you want to live in a world where you have to feel like you are stressed out all the time? Or do you want to feel like you are relaxed and chill and just like enjoying life and you're still going at the same speed, maybe a little bit slower, but you're actually calm about it and you're not stressing out. So I'm subscribing more to the second worldview these days.
I'm glad we're not unsubscribing right now to anything. But, do you remember any of your aphorisms? So one of yours is like having an action bias. It's better to live a life of
wells instead of what is. Yeah.
Okay.
Where do I start, man? I have so many of those. I'd rather be an optimist and wrong than a pessimist and right. And I steal a lot of these from other people, but I love them because I think in this day and age, especially in the Western world, like you can create your own reality. Like if you can agree that you can create whatever reality and whatever lifestyle you want, then wouldn't you want to live in that best possible outcome universe? Like, wouldn't you want to be happy all the time and energetic all the time and not stressed out all the time? And like, I know I'm sounding like a life coach right now. I'm not selling you life coach course.
He's from Austin, guys.
Yeah. Everyone else can, but I'm fine with it. I just want to live in a world where like I know what I want and I am doing what I want, and figuring out what you want is more important than anything else. Like, and that could be maybe doing things and making a list of things that you actually don't want to do too. For example, I don't want to stress out in my romantic relationship. I don't want to worry about money. I don't want to be consistently stressed out with meetings. Like I avoid meetings like the plague. And I don't have meetings at all. Like if you want to talk to me, just call me or text me. I find meetings, especially if they're not gonna move the needle in like a big way, that I just find them kind of pointless.
Too busy for coffee, but an open calendar, huh?
Yeah.
Another heck Buddha nugget of wisdom.
Creativity starts with a empty calendar and ends with a full calendar. We just go back and forth if you want. Yeah, well, I guess one thing I wanted to talk about is I have like a list of like 30 things I want to talk about.
We have 48 hours.
Yeah.
We're locked in here.
So let's start with funnels. I think that's really important because when you're working on a lot of different projects, you're not sure what's going to return if you're doing business. Like you don't know what's going to make a bunch of money. So you kind of have to make a lot of noise. You have to do a lot of things. You have to talk to a lot of people. You're not sure which outcome is going to be the one that actually makes it. For example, I'm in this like mastermind group here in Austin, and we talk about films a lot. And there were 4 people on the Zoom call. I almost didn't join, but I'm glad I did, because once I got into the call, the 4th person was actually James Cameron's former producer in like early 2000s. And I'm like, I didn't even know who he was. He's just randomly talking. Then I looked up his IMDb, and I'm like, oh my God, like I almost didn't join this call. And then I ended up talking to him for like 30 minutes about film. And then he gave me so many insights that I would have never even known if I didn't talk to him. It was crazy. So I guess it's important when it comes to these funnels to do as many things as you can, whether it's with dating or with businesses or with tinkering, like whatever it is that your kind of North Star is that you're going towards, like you have to do it a lot. Another example of that is dating. Like I'm under the impression that you have to go on a lot of dates. Like you have to go on hundreds of dates to find the right one, to find an outlier. And I don't think a lot of people do that, and they end up in like really bad relationships. Then again, I'm not in a relationship right now, so I don't know, but I feel like that's what you have to do in this day and age. Yeah.
So regarding the first point, I mean, that's crazy that James Cameron's dude was on that call.
Yeah.
Why was he on that call? How do you get in touch with people? I know you can get in touch with people. This guy looks up everyone.
Yeah.
He knows this, but I'm talking about for people listening, how can they utilize, your kind of abundance mindset to get into areas where they can actually interact with these people in a meaningful way, rather than just stalking them and showing up at their house?
I haven't done that, I promise.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So I think it depends on like what your strong suit is. I think access to people can be hard, especially if you're just like a average Joe and like you want to get in touch with someone. But like, what's an example of someone? Like a iVenture student or something.
Yeah. So let's say a student has like a dream investor.
Yeah.
Like how do they get, even just like your example right now of like your film and like getting in front of like an investor, like what like that turned out to be a good opportunity for you. Like you didn't say no to it. You showed up and it worked out for you. But also like, I mean, what are the chances that dude is on that call? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I'm in a mastermind group, and the woman who runs it, Jennifer Hutchins, she's like prolific in LA, and she moved to Austin a few years ago, and she did like a mastermind group, and she just has random people coming in and out all the time. And I'm just like, I don't know how she talks to them, but she's worked in the industry for so long that she's done a good job doing it. I think it depends on your project, but I was thinking about the other day, like what makes a project investable? And I think it's two things. I think first of all, it's having value, like having some type of value proposition in the project. So for example, with the film I'm working on now, I'm like, I don't never made a feature before. Like, where can I have the most leverage? And I'm like, I'm gonna work on the script as much as I can and have the like world's best script. Then hopefully people can kind of see what I'm working with, because I don't have access to like all of these A-list directors or A-list celebrities. Like, I can cold call them, but they're going to be like, okay, like, what do you have to offer me? Like, oh, I have this script. Like, that's all I really have. So I think it starts with just having as much value as you can, and value can be attributed in different ways. It might be a very powerful script, or in the case of like a SaaS company, it might just be like a lot of users on getting onboarded every day, which comes back to product market fit. I think it's really project dependent, but from an investor perspective, they want to invest in value, and they want to invest in things that maybe don't make a lot of money, but maybe they change the world in some way. Like if they invest in a project and they know that it'll do 100,000 in the box office, but it could maybe win a really big film festival, like that's still a really interesting thing as an investor. That's like another bragging point that is kind of timeless to do. So
Yeah.
I would say it's a lot of value and then a lot of hustle. A lot of hustle. Keep going back between those two.
Yeah, no, so this actually combines in what we talked about earlier. Is just you said whether it's you've worked on almost 100 different projects, and you're talking about even relationships, like just like trying things out as many times. It's just putting yourself out there. I feel that it is, again, this just might be how society is today, but there seems to be a lot of instant gratification. Like there seems to be a lot of stuff being sold in our faces, whether it's supplements, clothing, ways of living. There's so many quick fixes almost presented to us. Like, oh, like it blows my mind. I think sometimes when people, I should be one to talk, don't mess up or don't fix their sleep, their nutrition, their fitness, and then they're chasing like all these other things. Oh, this pill, Ozempic will fix me, or these supplements will fix me, or this new diet will fix me.
Mm-hmm.
This, it's just like, dude, like it's 80-20, right? In terms of just getting over that hump, like how do you, like doing 100 projects, even to me sounds insane.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for the last decade. Like
how do you use insanity?
How do you go from failure to failure with like no loss of just like momentum? Like that's part one of the question. And part two is, how do you maintain like this creative output where you're just like your ideas are so different? You've done a travel app, I think. You're a pilot. Like there's not really much crisscross here.
Yeah.
How are you branching out into all these areas, and more importantly, not just learning at or reading at a surface level, but actually innovating and doing something out of it?
So going back to the failure by failure part, I honestly I have to attribute this to my mom. So my mom might be the reason why I'm single, and I'll tell you why. My mom is the type of person where she can hang drywall and then she can cook for 30 people at the same time. She's a highly functional person. Like she grew up at a very young age. When she was 16, she got married and left the house. And why I think I'm still single because my mom is because she just sets such a high bar. And I've inherited so much from her. The fact that she can do all of these things and not even break a sweat. Like it has to be some nurture. There has to be some nurture in there. She was kind of like my mom and my dad at the same time. Like my dad was still in the picture, but like he wasn't there as like I grew up with my mom basically. So I would say that like, I think some of it has to just do with how I was raised. I really can't think of where else it came from, honestly. So that's part of the first part. Second part is the creative output. Again, it comes back to my mom. Like
she's awesome.
There's a before and after photo of this of a room that she remodeled where it's just like a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, did I show this photo? And the second picture is just like this Africa room.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the craziest like before and after. And we used to do like soapbox derbies when I was a kid. She was also a gemologist, so she was very handy. She was very kind of driven by like dexterity and creativity and color. She used to sell jewelry to like really famous basketball players and stuff. So another thing too that I learned from her is like the gift of the gab, how to convince people to do things. My mom, like she would see like a rich like couple walk in And she wouldn't focus on the wife because the wife wanted the, beautiful ring or whatever. She'd focus on the husband. She would make the husband, and this is a little messed up, but she'd make the husband feel like if he didn't buy her this necklace, like he is the worst person in the world. Like she could sell anything to anyone. So I think it's a combination of just that grit plus the creativity plus the gift of the gab that I inherited from my mom. And like this is the first time I've actually ever said that. Like I literally owe it to her in almost every way. So yeah, I think nurture is so important for sure, which is why maybe I'm still single, because I have a high standard, and like it's very hard to compete with my mom. And it's like I want someone who's similar to my mom in all of those different ways. And it's like in this day and age, it's just becoming less and less abundant to find high functioning people, because it's just so easy to press a button and get an Uber Eats right now and not cook, right? So
yeah. You mentioned gemology in Africa. Weren't you there recently?
We were in Africa recently.
Seeing a gemologist?
Yeah, we did gorillas, sharks.
We didn't do gorillas.
We do gorillas, and
we saw gorillas.
We did the gorilla thing. We saw gorillas, sharks, did a safari, Kilimanjaro. That was both our first time in Africa.
So one of the main things was, it was actually for Stefan's birthday. Why did you want to go to Kilimanjaro? Why did you want to go to Kilimanjaro? So is that the 7 summits? Is that why? Like ultimately before Zach and everything?
Yeah. In 2016, I wrote it on my bucket list, and the 7 summits was on my list. Yeah, I actually wanted to finish it before 32, but then COVID hit, and then like I created some excuses for myself.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, running with the bulls is what we're doing this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for paying for it.
One of us runs, and he's not 200 pounds.
One of us pays, and he's under 200 pounds.
The first day was great. I just told everyone that it was Stefan's birthday, and he was somehow surprised that everyone knew it was his birthday. So the air hostesses, the people at the lounge, the taxi drivers, everyone was wishing him.
I was just getting random birthday cakes for like 3 days. It was weird. Yeah. We are first time when I arrived in the hostel. It was first time in Africa, first time in Tanzania, first time basically anywhere of that nature. And we get to the hostel, and Zach and our whole crew was like, hey, like we're going to this random girl's house. We just met her. Get in this black car, and we are going to go to her house, and like she's gonna make us dinner and all these things. And I'm sitting there like jet lagged, like where are we and so we drove for like 30 minutes to this girl's house, and it was like this huge gate with like the middle of nowhere. I'm just like, okay, this is it. Like my life is over. Like, it's good to know you. I'm 33, I guess, is enough years to live. I think that's when Jesus died. And we get there, and then like this like door creaks open, and then this girl greets us, and we go inside her house, and they like start making food for us. And we're just like, what? And there's pictures everywhere. There's this like random guy just videoing all of us for the whole time we're there, and then we end up like dancing and like partying and drinking, and it was like one of the most, how do I explain it? One of the most eye-opening, surprising, but fun things I've ever done in a different country, especially on my first day there. Like it was crazy, the hospitality that they had. Yeah,
they wished him happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, how do they know? How do they know? He didn't put 2 and 2 together. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you nailed it there. We had our preconceived notions about Africa and danger, and we're looking at the US State Department warnings, and we're getting into this, just stranger's car, essentially, like a person that we met at the marketplace in Moshi, out of all places in Tanzania, and going to a place where there's no light, no resources, no way to get help. Like we're far away from the city. If we were in trouble, no one would have saved us. But like you said, it turned out to be one of the best nights. Obviously, we both stayed sober, but we had a great time dancing. Man, the Tanzanians can dance.
Yeah,
they can dance. We danced our way to the top of Kilimanjaro, actually, with our crew. Real talk.
Yeah, they were telling us, our guys were telling us that we were the happiest, or most cheerful group that they've ever had, and they've been doing it for, I don't know, 10 plus years.
You think you're happy with?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's why we get along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life, like you said, or as Uncle John says, it's about enjoyment.
It is. It's about enjoyment.
We laugh a lot.
We do, maybe too much.
Yeah. We're not even that funny.
Yeah. Like that wasn't funny at all.
I wasn't. I was just looking at you and I started cracking up. Yeah.
Saudi.
Kilimanjaro, yeah.
And then we hung out after that. We did safari, which was cool. We saw cheetahs, leopards, lions, elephants, warthogs.
Hippos. We saw rhinoceros, zebras, giraffes, baboons, everything. The whole big five, the whole shebang. That was
my favorite part of the trip for sure. I mean, Kilimanjaro was fun too, but like the safari thing, just out in the middle of nowhere in the Serengeti in a car that like could break down at any moment was.
I have no idea how our car can break down.
Our car, like think of surfing. Our car was surfing on rocks. Like there were like sharp, jagged rocks everywhere. And we were going like 100 miles an hour. I'm just like, how is this? And it's shaking everywhere.
The best driver in the world.
Yeah, best driver.
We just exuded extreme peace.
Manase.
Yeah.
Manase.
So was our guide for the actual trek. Just pure chill Buddha vibes.
Which I think just takes a lot of repetitions to do that. Like they've probably been doing this for 10 or 20 years and they've seen it all where they're so peaceful that nothing can faze them.
Seeing a theme there, just more reps.
Yeah.
Reps. Don't, more reps. My favorite part of Africa was you and I sharing the same tent for 6 days.
Yeah, it was longer than that, but it was like 2 weeks.
Oh, the 2 weeks.
Yeah, safari and then,
That's true.
There's a lot.
Yeah. I learned a lot about it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like Africa is still a very wild place. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Like,
it's not the biggest mountain you've been in sight of, though, right? Aren't you close to Everest?
Yeah, I went to Everest Base Camp 10 years ago in 2014. That was very awesome too. It was different because in Kilimanjaro we were sleeping in tents. In Everest Base Camp we're sleeping in like freezing cold tea houses, and so like, there's no warmth from your neighbor. Like you're just sleeping in this cold room, which is what Lauren did on the way to the top, and she actually beat us to the top, which is crazy. Yeah, it was another fun one.
Yeah, how was Everest? Like seeing that.
I cried. There was nobody there that year because there was a big avalanche that happened. A lot of Sherpas actually died, unfortunately, and so they closed down base camp. So we were the only ones that got to go there, and we had to leave. We couldn't even camp on base camp. And yeah, that was like one of the most life-affirming trips I've ever been on because I was with some of the coolest people in the world from literally every country. Like there were people from Israel and India, and there was a guy from Tanzania and Belgium and Canada and the UK and the United States. It was like a very international group of people from the University of British Columbia. And yeah, it was just a really great time. That was right after I worked at NASA. I actually met the girl at NASA and she's like, hey, do you want to go to Everest Base Camp in like 6 months? And I'm like, sure. And that's where I kind of developed my whole, I'd rather live a life of oh wells instead of what ifs. That was back in 2014.
You still keep in touch with them?
I do, yeah. Kunal, I have to go see him. And then, yeah, a lot of them, I mean, they all graduated, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Kunal, if you're listening.
Yeah. Love you, man.
Come back. I want to meet you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the guides and the Sherpas, we had 30 plus, so it was almost 3 people to an expeditioner on the trip. Mm-hmm. And good God, I mean, they did everything for us. They carried our gear, set up our tent.
Yeah, I felt kind of lazy. They didn't even drink water. Right?
Drink water.
Like they were telling us to drink like 3 or 4 liters a day or whatever, and we're just like,
no food.
What are you drinking?
Yeah, they ate our leftovers. Like they cleaned up everything. It was crazy. Like we couldn't have done it without them. Like all we had to do, literally, I became a machine. I'm pretty good at that. Eat, hike, drink, send a text message or a fax.
Yeah.
That's colloquial for, when nature calls. And then sleep and repeat. That's all I had to do. And I just took it one step at a time. We just moved.
Yeah, we hiked very slowly. Like when you were on summit day, like the cadence was like 1, 2, 1. It was very slow.
It felt like an extremely slow shuffle that was never ending.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like the only thing in my head was just 1, 2, and I just repeated that mantra. And pole pole is just Swahili, right? For just slowly. That's like the main kind of. There's a couple rules there, but that's the main kind of thing they say. Another one is stay positive.
Stay positive. Yeah. Which is just a great way to live life.
And never give up.
Never give up.
Yeah. Sounds cheesy, but man, when you're out there in the thick and there's nothing else in life holding you back, like those things actually carried a lot of weight.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you invited me on that trip. It was a good one. I don't know how we're going to top it.
I mean, I'd like to go to the bottom of the ocean. Mariana Trench would be cool.
Yeah. You do that.
Yeah, James Cameron actually went to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
I made a deep sea 3D challenge. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So cool. God.
Why haven't you moved to Bali?
So I used to be a lot more spiritual and kind of free going. And these days I want to live a normal creative life. Like I don't really care to like virtue signal like going to Burning Man or like ketamine therapy or over experiment. Like I'm interested in it, but it's like I don't do it for the sake of like talking about it on social media. Like I've always wondered if people weren't on social media, how much of this stuff they would actually do. I think social media might become less prevalent in the future just because people want that realness, that human touch that we've been missing out on. Hopefully, I think it's gonna be a trend actually. So I've noticed my Instagram usage go down in the last 3 years for sure.
I think a lot of millennials feel that way because a lot of millennials grew up, without this for a good portion of their life. But I mean, we also talk about the other side of it. Even if people realize that it's bad, that it can have toxic effects, that it can. I mean, just you look at any teenage girl that's using Instagram, like she has body image issues. Look at any young
body dysmorphia.
Exactly, and what's
on the male side too? Same thing. You're not under 5% body, yeah, you're fat.
Yeah, and just social media rewards extremes. That's what the algorithm pushes. It's more extreme. It's just how else do you keep people on the app? So whether or not we realize that it has harmful effects, the reality is most people are living digital first. You and I, we're best friends, but I can probably count on my hands how many times I've seen it in the last decade, like in terms of like moments, right? It's just life goes on. So I think whether or not we are cognizant of the damaging effects of social media, the fact is that the algorithm is incredibly toxic, and it's if you don't put up guardrails to safeguard against it, it's very difficult to beat. It's just like any addict, right? If you're addicted to sugar and you have sugar in your home and you're trying to live a healthy, nutritious life, why would you keep that in your house? Just get rid of it.
What guardrails do you have right now?
In terms of?
Social media, phone, I guess digital, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I have, I think the black screen is really helpful. So just getting rid of all stimulation from colors. So I click 3 buttons on the iPhone, just on the volume side. And
okay, but let me call you out a little bit. What should I actually use on a daily basis? But how do you detox from digital? How do you keep up those guardrails every day? Let me give you an example of mine.
Sure.
So like I don't get any text notifications. I have to physically open the text messages app to get notifications. I have basically every notification off unless it's for my calendar.
So for me, it depends on cycles. So at certain points of the year, I'm more busy with work. And at those times, like, it's okay to have notifications. But then I think for me, it's always about cycles. It's just like bulking and cutting. There's like sometimes on the phone, I don't know where it is in the house. Or sometimes it's just put away purposely and it's not charged. And it has do not disturb for everything. It's everything. And then most of my apps that are social media, there's a time limit on it, which I tried at first, and it'd be like 15 minutes of Instagram, and then you ignore. What's more effective for me is just actually deleting the app.
Yeah.
And then each day that you delete the app, actually, I find it easier to stay off the app. But then I come back onto it, and let's say a post, I might find myself sometimes re-downloading it and going back onto it. So I think the biggest guardrail, if I'm being quite honest, is we can talk about all these like quote unquote hacks, whether it's black screen or post and ghost or, all these organizing the phone itself. The biggest guardrail in my experience is just living your life.
Yeah.
Like if you're hanging out with people and working out, like, yeah, you can post on social media, but then you'll go right back to hanging out and doing the thing and being excited by whatever it is you're doing, whether it's writing a book or creating a film. So that's the biggest guardrail, if I'm being honest.
Life, yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Do Not Disturb. I don't know if you probably don't know this because I can see when Do Not Disturb is on and off. You can disable that so people don't know if it's on or off.
I don't mind people knowing.
I mind.
Yeah.
School watching.
I set mine on 24-hour Do Not Disturb. There's only like 2 people that are on Do Not Disturb, like my mom.
Yeah, my mom never calls me. I have to call her all the time.
Really?
Yeah, my dad's the opposite. Like, hey, where are you, man? Pick up your phone, man. I'm like, Mom, where are you? My dad's chasing me right now.
You're gonna beat me. That's the opposite for me. My mom calls me all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, I gotta go to work. She's like, okay, goodbye, son. And then she stays on the line for another 15 minutes asking the same questions. What'd you eat today? I'm like, same thing I have forever. Protein bar, protein shake, Greek yogurt, banana.
It's a lot of protein.
My dad never calls me. He's like, hey, Luke, John. I'm like, none of your sons are named that.
My dad didn't love me. For those that don't know that quote, please go watch Manu's first video on YouTube. It's very good.
It's actually my second video.
Second. It's old school Manu.
Yeah. Back in the early days of YouTube.
When he had a little more chin line. I'm just kidding.
Let's do a cutting challenge then. Let's see if we're out.
I can cut right now.
Yeah, okay.
So
this boy can eat.
I can eat. Yeah, I like rich foods. So one thing I'd like to ask you about is what's something interesting that you've been learning about, and you can't talk about like Hindu mythology or the Roman Empire.
Why not?
I want to hear something new.
So just
the last month, maybe, or in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, just because you gave me that role, that's what I'm going to dive into. Yeah, this is my podcast. That's the rules. We don't like it. Get off.
House rules.
So, and you might like it. That's why I want to share it. So, growing up, I did immerse myself in a lot of the philosophies and religions and mythologies, and I always found the action part the most fascinating. Like, oh, here's like Heracles completing his 12 labors, or here's the warriors of the Mahabharata fighting each other, or the warriors of the Trojan War fighting each other. Like that was a cool part of it. That's why it appealed to action, appealed to martial arts. It appealed to like a warrior ethos, chivalry, code of conduct, all that sort of stuff. But I've been spending the last couple months more on introspection, and as such, I've been spending a lot more time reading maybe quote unquote the calmer philosophies. So reading Buddhism and reading the Bhagavad Gita of the Mahabharata. So essentially all it is there's two sets of cousins that are set to battle each other to the death over a kingdom. It's a dynastic struggle. And then the quote unquote protagonist, he looks at across the battlefield and he sees all of his family members, like his grandsire, his uncles, and he loses faith in himself to fight them. His charioteer is an avatar of the main Hindu god Vishnu, and he reveals his divine self, and he talks him through how to make difficult decisions, how to fight for dharma, which is an abstract Hindu concept on maybe duty and virtue. And I think that's actually been helpful, like diving into these philosophies. Like philosophy never made sense until life became hard, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that battlefield, like I was like, this is cool. They're fighting each other and like all these weapons and stuff. Nah. It's about the battle within, like making the right choice, making difficult decisions, maybe doing, difficult things for the greater good.
You mentioned, like we're not philosophers until there's a problem or something. It's kind of like the expression atheist until the plane is falling out.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So I think that was really important. And the Buddhist teachings are amazing.
I'm probably closest to a Buddhist, actually.
It is so cool. Like, I think one of the monks, he had an amazing saying, which is, there's no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So these kind of things, they don't make sense when you're just reading them. Like I just go through stuff. Like, okay, I'm going to read books. I'm going to read them all. I'm just going to go through as many books as possible.
So are you reading or are you audiobooking these?
Mostly reading. I prefer reading. Okay. Yeah.
If when people say reading, it's an audiobook, I'm like, you didn't read it. I'm sorry. You listen to it.
Yeah, sure. You listen to it. But yeah, I prefer reading actually a physical book. I don't like the Kindle. But it was more to achieve just the objective of reading a lot of books rather than like picking up something from it. And now when I'm reading stuff, I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of it. And so that's, I think, something I've learned is just, I don't need to do it all. I think I'm at a place now where I feel pretty good with my cultural knowledge. Like I've accumulated a lot of, just enough to like be fairly competent in most conversations. And now it's more about doubling down in areas where maybe I'm super interested or need counsel or guidance on, if that makes sense. And I think the coolest thing about some of these older texts is, and I think Naval actually mentions this, is that
you quoted Naval like 18 times already.
Yeah. Maybe we should bring him on the podcast.
That'd be cool, actually.
That would be super.
I would start a podcast if he was on it.
I mean, you live in Austin. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. He'll be here soon.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Joe Rogan's at the door. Hold on.
No, but guys, quick commercial break.
Yeah, quick ice bath break.
This episode is sponsored by Onnets.
We're actually going there tomorrow. Oh, wait, sorry, what were you saying? I wanted to kind of follow up on that.
Oh, go ahead, follow up.
So this is all cool stuff, all these stories. But how are you incorporating this practically in your life? What was philosophy? Like, what's a big takeaway from this? Because I can read till my eyes fall out, right? But how can we apply this right now? Or how are you applying it right now?
I think one of the things I've noticed is my life features a heavy amount of people, actually.
Like heavy people or?
Yeah, like this guy.
Wow.
You're 40 pounds heavier than me.
Only 200.
But the sheer amount of people that I interact with, there's so many, and I don't think people understand. I'm a real, I don't want to say chameleon. I'm a butterfly. I don't know. There's a lot of friend groups. They're all different. I didn't join a fraternity in college, so there's a lot of friend groups. And through my work, just the nature of my work, every year it's replenished and it's growing. So it's like you meet tons more students every year, hundreds of students actually. And the colleagues, you just said it. I'm at the nexus of like my job, my main role, my job is running the community. So I am the centerpiece of it all. Despite the sheer amount of people that I deal with or interact with, at the end of the day, I'm coming home to myself. So simultaneously, while having all the social interaction, I'm still lonely. And I think the most important thing is still the relationship with yourself. And like when things get tough, I think I can get really deep into my mind. And that's where like reading this kind of stuff gives me reaffirmation in terms of building a better relationship with myself and feeling mentally strong. It's all about finding strength for me. And that's why I dive into some of these things. I think people are always like, wow, you have all these quote unquote nerdy interests, whether it's like mythology or comic books or, these maybe perhaps outdated ideals like Bushido or chivalry. But that's kind of where when life isn't maybe going the way that I want it to, that's where I kind of drive perspective and strength from.
So you mentioned loneliness. Can you elaborate on it a little bit? Because I was actually in a phase maybe 6 months ago where I was feeling very lonely, and I kind of blamed it on society, like this post-COVID loneliness, which I'm sure a lot of people experience. And I think a lot of people are still experiencing it. But I just one day I just snapped out of it. I don't know what it exactly was, but I think if I could put it on one thing, it was selling my house in South Austin and moving back into like downtown. And I just have so much more cross-pollination, so much more interaction here. So it was actually a location thing after I did some digging. So I'm curious, like for you, if you found something or if you're kind of in the thick of it or what your experience is with that right now.
Yeah, location definitely matters, but I think also it's kind of self-imposed. I think I can find people if I really want to. It's not that hard. It's just, as I mentioned, people usually come to me with problems. That's okay. It's a great honor to be there for a problem, whether it was family or friends or employees or students. That's like literally this whole day before I came here. I have a job, which is to mentor just for 2 hours a day. I'm running an international business plan competition. This is a work trip. I'm not coming here for friendship, Stefan.
Oh man, come on.
But so I'm supposed to mentor 2 teams a day, just for an hour each. I give a speech. I ran a workshop at the beginning, running on the importance of teams, the business model canvas, just the basics of coming up with a good idea. It struck a chord with several students. So more than like the 2 teams that are supposed to meet with, there's several students coming up with me, not just with their business ideas, with their personal questions, their own startup ideas like this. And I'm not going to turn those people away, because the whole reason I'm in this role is when I was that age, most people in my life were telling me no, whether it's my friends, my relationships, my family, like they were just like negative about stuff. And they also didn't know like the answer. They just kind of said, no, that sounds unrealistic. And so I think it's cool that I'm in that spot. But to answer your question about location and what's causing the loneliness, I think I'm happy that I'm in that spot. It's self-imposed. Like,
what is it though? Tell me more about it. What is it you're feeling? Not to psychoanalyze you, but maybe I will.
I mean, the loneliness isn't necessarily like, it's a state of being. It's not necessarily like a positive or negative thing. It's just like, like at this point in time, like especially November through January, I have 2 options. Either I sit with my thoughts and I work on something, or I travel and do something extraordinary, like go to Asia or Africa or something like that. I know that this year I'm planning on doing some pretty big things at iVenture Accelerator. So the year has already started, and you know my schedule already. I'm going to be in like 5 cities in the next like 10 days. So I think this time to myself was really important to get grounded before I start going back into the frying pan. Yeah. Real world is just, it's just the other side of things. I think it's the best phrase to describe it, dude, is the dichotomy of man. Like I am an ENTJ, INTJ, almost 51, 49%. So I'm extrovert, introvert, like half and half. I can be the life of the party, and I need to be because I'm giving all these speeches. Like I have to be charismatic. People have to like me because like that's my job. I connect people. But simultaneously, like, I value just being with myself because I have all of that. It's good to get down here too. One more thing, like the COVID loneliness didn't hit me. I know it hit you. I was at the time of my life. I was traveling. I was getting out of Champagne. I road tripped the country. I went to India and trained martial arts. So I made good use of that time. I think now, just as I'm getting a little bit older.
Oh, so you are going to admit that you're getting older now.
I mean, yeah, all of us are. Like tomorrow, you'll be older too. It's just, I think the last thing I'm going to say is just, you're seeing, maybe the feeling that I'm getting in terms of loneliness is the people that I've grown with, their lives are changing. So relationships, children, different jobs, like, and there is more friction because of location, right? In terms of being able to hang out. Like it's a huge barrier to hang out with someone. It's an opportunity cost. Do I want to get up, get ready, go talk to someone, get out there, or should I just stay at home, order DoorDash, and watch, Netflix?
Or they have kids or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. But it's just, I've noticed that too. But final thought, I promise. That's where the philosophies all help me, because I'm just grateful that I've had good memories with some of these people. Like, I can't be mad at people for this living their life. There's no resentment. It's just, oh, dude, I get that they're busy, but man, at one point in life, like, we were boys. We still are. It's just, we just have different priorities in life. We're on different trajectories. And that's been like a really helpful perspective. It's just, instead of me catering to everyone, I'll be there for everyone, but I really got to double down on what I need to do, what I want to do.
So speaking of philosophy and, personal stuff and, people starting families and stuff, do you want a family?
I have a family. You're my family.
Oh, thanks, man.
Okay, good offering.
I didn't touch him, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about. We are in our underwear, though, just so you know. This might get edited out, but it's more comfortable that way. I don't know. So kind of jumping over to something that I think is very interesting that a lot of people don't even know about is coloring. And like, we've seen all your YouTube videos, whatever. I don't want to talk about that.
No one has.
Everyone has that knows him. Show me all your coloring. Show me that floppy sword. So one thing that I like to ask, and this is an exclusive on this podcast, what is something that you've never told anyone about your coloring experience? I'm sure there's something in there that really changed you, or that was very crazy that I want to hear about, because you did it for about 6 months, and so I'm sure you have a lot of stories. And at the same time, it's a very brutal sport, so you've probably seen some and felt some stuff too. That made you think.
I feel like I'm pretty open about it. It was the hardest thing I did at the time, mentally, physically, spiritually. I don't know if I've been on the record about this, but I had just, ended a relationship before I decided to just go to India. And I think I was sad about it for about 3 days, and then the training overtook. So if you want to get over something, just beat yourself up for 8 hours a day.
What is that called? Like, I don't know, sublimation or coping, or like kind of burying that feeling almost?
I don't care. It was a close. I think here's the main takeaway from it. Don't put off anything for tomorrow. If there's something that you really want to do, just do it. Coloring was my dream. It was my dream to learn an Indian martial art because I wanted to change the perspectives of like Asian American masculinity here. I wanted to honor my father because he had studied it. And I just thought it was cool. I thought it was so cool to learn like sword fighting and all that stuff.
But you also hated it.
I hated it. I hated every minute of training. Like, and
It's not like an ayahuasca trip or something. Like you love it and hate it at the same time.
Like it was painful, dude. It was almost 5 hours of training in the morning. I mean, everyone's heard the story. Like I'm training, I'm getting beat up all day, and I take a nap, then I come back and review, and I train again, and just do the same thing over. Your sleep doesn't even rest. Like you wake up and like, dude, I just got beat up. Like, no, you got beat up like 6 hours ago. It's time to get beat up again.
A lot of inflammation.
A lot of inflammation and just like no food. It's just it was the most difficult thing. It was in optimal conditions. I hated it, and I think Mike Tyson has a great quote. It's discipline is doing something you hate like you love it, and he loved boxing and he was disciplined. And with this, I loved it, but I mean, it was brutal. Bodybuilding was brutal. I mean, anything that I really like, I think it's brutal. I think writing is difficult. I thought boxing was difficult. I think Ivanshire is difficult because I do put my all into it. I think that's why it's a good program. And of course, we have a great team. But yeah, it's just all these things are difficult. But it goes back to what you're saying about your dream life and what you're creating. Like it's a Bruce Lee quote. It's not about the strength for an easy or wishing for an easy life. It's just building the strength for whatever life you have. Right. I think that's what it's about. Like people call me intense. I just want the most out of everything.
I don't think you're intense.
Thank you. Okay. Says the guy who said it first. What's one word you describe yourself?
Recently I would say centered. Yeah.
I'm really happy for you. Long time coming.
Yeah. Centered in an uncentered way. I don't know.
You're definitely the most grounded I've known for sure. This is probably the most mature conversation we've had, which isn't saying much.
We've had some crazy cover. Anyways, who's your favorite thought leader right now?
Rashi, so you Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, he's a little off. I've actually met him before. Wait, can I tell the story about him real quick? So Brian Johnson sold his company called Braintree to PayPal for I think $800 million. I don't know how much money he made off of it, for probably hundreds of millions of dollars. And I thought he was a really cool guy, and I didn't really think much of him. And then he started this new company called Kernel, which is a brain-computer interface company that he built after he made all this crazy amount of money. And he was interviewing for a position down in Los Angeles. And I actually like cold emailed the recruiter, and I was like, hey, like, I know you don't really have a job for me, but can I just come down there and interview with you? And she's like, sure. And I'm like, okay, cool. And she didn't respond. And then I followed up with her, and then I ended up going through 7 interviews, like 7 different phone call, this, that, this. And then finally they sent me on a Spirit Airlines flight to LA, didn't pay for my hotel or anything. And I showed up at Brian Johnson's. It was like a house. It wasn't even like a official company headquarters. It was like someone's house. And I pull up to it and I walk in, and I'm just like, where am I? It was like I don't know how to describe it. It was like someone's house, basically. And I go into the interview room and I sit there and I meet 2 of the recruiters, and then Brian walks in and he just kind of just like stares at me and like kind of psychoanalyzes me. He's like, what do you do? Like, what are you up to? Why do you want to work here? He's like, I asked him all these really strange questions, and he would ask me a question. He would just sit there for a minute and just be quiet. Like just a lot of like negative space in the conversation. And at the very end, he was like, I don't know about this guy. I see you as an entrepreneur. He's like, you almost remind me of myself when I was younger. He's like, I don't know if I can hire you for this, for any position, because we don't really have any open positions for you. And I'm just like, okay, well, it's cool to interview you. And then I left. And I'm glad I didn't work there, because I've gone this long without having a full-time job, besides, I guess, working at Apple, but that was a contractor job. But yeah, I think he was right. I think I just am an entrepreneur at heart. Scrappy, raw talent, if you will. Some people have told me that.
I'm a fan. I think a lot of people like to give him hate, but I think he's also doing some things that no one's doing. He's the most measured human in history, apparently.
I'm watching his documentary right now.
Oh, on Netflix? Is it good?
It's okay so far, yeah.
Let's watch it later.
Yeah. Okay. We're in our underwear already.
Oh my God, why do you gotta be like this guy?
I don't think anyone ever does that, though. It's kind of cool.
Is it?
Yeah. It's just more comfy. Like, I don't want to like wear a suit and like get interviewed and ask people questions. Like, I want to feel comfortable. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable with me?
No, I don't.
Me either.
Yeah. Get out of my house.
Yeah. Do you think would you be interested in expanding human lifespan?
Yeah, I would. I just like, to be honest, like I don't really think that Brian Johnson is gonna live any longer than anyone else. Like he'll probably increase his longevity like a little bit, but like in terms of clinical significance, I don't see it yet. I think a good example of that is just I watch Peter Attia on Instagram, and like he gets progressively older every time, like every year. Like aging is a thing that happens to everyone, and I don't think it's something that you can avoid. You can slow it, but it's just going to be a softer landing. You still have to land the plane at some point. Um, unless something big came out, like I don't see it happening in our lifetime. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, the whole immortality and extended lifespan, the Methuselah project, like even the telomere research on rats or mice, I think it's fascinating. I think Johnson is actually accurate. If humans solve aging, I mean that's just it's so cool that it's being taken seriously because imagine even if there are a couple more extra years for like your buddy Da Vinci or Ferris, just like someone that could do some real good. And of course, the counter argument is for someone that does bad, they have more years too. But I think that shouldn't be enough to negate the potential for humans to live longer and be cognitively functioning at a high level for longer. I think overall that's a good thing.
I think the impossibility factor is still pretty high in this day and age. Like I think it's as likely that we will terraform Mars as it is that we'll solve aging. I think what's more likely is AGI in the next 10 years, which I don't even know how to describe in a way that makes sense, but I can just see it happening faster than anything else. So
even AGI, I'm like there's multiple ways that immortality is being discussed, and one of it is just like transferring sentience to a robotic exoskeleton, and who knows what that means. I think that's the kind of stuff that's kind of kooky. It's kind of crazy that we have to take these things kind of seriously now. Yeah, what a world.
Yeah, what a world. But at the same time, like nothing's really surprised me in the last year. Like I think the biggest surprise that I've seen is Midjourney recently in Sora that came out. I have been doing some storyboarding for another film I'm working on, and Sora is actually pretty good. But and it just have you used Sora at all?
Yeah,
it just came out. It's good, but like you have to be very specific with the prompts. I still don't see how it's like nothing's really scaring me right now. I think the closest thing that did scare me though was recently with ChatGPT 4.0, where I think it was a guy wearing a hat, and he's like, "Should I wear this hat to a job interview?" And ChatGPT was like, "Oh, ha ha ha, that's really funny. No, you should not wear that." I'm like, "That's crazy." He's wearing like a funny hat, and this AI is laughing at it. I thought that was pretty cool, but that was really the only thing that scared me in the last even probably 10 years. Like, I want to be scared for the future, and I'm not feeling it. Like, there's a lot of hype, but like, what is actually scaring me is not much.
Sam Altman is entering the chat.
Yeah. Come here, Sam Altman. Let's have a conversation.
He supposedly has a bunker in Big Sur just in case there's a nuclear war caused by AI.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So the whole surprising thing is interesting too. So I am a little bit more cautious about AI. I think ultimately, like I'm a transhumanist. I'm pretty positive and bullish on humanity. I think this could be an excellent tool that leads to unprecedented growth. Like if everyone really understood the potential of this, like it would be really neat to see what kind of use cases all kinds of people could have, right? Like this goes back into some of my like earlier thinking. Like I think there's a neurologist who, when Einstein died, all the neurologists are trying to examine his brain. He's like, I'm less concerned about the folds and gray matter in Einstein's brain as I am about the loss of people with similar brains who just died because of they were born in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? Like slaves or famine and that kind of stuff. So I see that side of things, but I'm just curious. You mentioned that you're not surprised. I think that's kind of reflective of society as a whole. It just desensitized to everything. We're having once in a lifetime events all the time.
Right.
Pandemic, ChatGPT, like all these things that we're using, these are all brand new, right? They're really recent in terms of humanity's existence. iPhone, apps, the internet, like all these things. I think the rate of change is so quick. I think that's actually kind of what scares me, because pretty soon, like, I think things are going to be proliferating at a rate that's hard to keep up with. And I think that's when humans really start, quote unquote, losing a battle. The reason humanity is successful is we're the smartest things on earth. What happens when that's no longer the case, right? Even this business plan competition I'm judging, all the ideas revolve around AI. AI this, AI that. And like AI is supposed to automate stuff, right? That's the Keynesian philosophy. Like it's supposed to automate all these things, and then humans can focus on creative work. But you just mentioned Sora. Yeah, it's not great right now, but neither was ChatGPT when it first came out. It's pretty solid right now.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Dolly's pretty solid right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will Smith looked awful a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing has still surprised me though. I mean, is there any examples that you have that have like really surprised you? Like I'm trying to think of an example where it was world changing. Like I don't know.
No, but that's the point, dude. Like I don't think anything changes, like surprises us. Does a mass shooting surprise us? Does a global war surprise us? Does like a pandemic surprise? Like nothing. We just keep moving through life. Like we are so just over inundated with just random like stuff.
Yeah. I'm under inundated. I don't really listen to the media or news or anything. Like I don't have any apps on my phone, which I love. Maybe I'm living in a shell, but it to me doesn't seem like there's anything really big happening. What's the biggest thing in your opinion that's happening right now?
I still think AI is dominating. It's
what if it's a fad? What if AGI is a fad?
All these things are fads.
Like if you're so bullish, like I'm trying to think, like if you're an investor and you're so bullish on AI, like why aren't you throwing every single dollar towards it? You know, it's like if AI is an inevitability in the world, why aren't you putting every single dollar towards your net worth? Kind of like a Balaji where he puts all his money in Bitcoin. Why aren't you an AI maximalist? Because there is a chance that it's not an actual thing, and that maybe it's just a fad, and we'll just return back to like how we were before. I'm always trying to figure out like the other side of that argument.
Yeah, no, I mean, investment just falls into cycles. So like every year, every quarter, there's new hyped areas. So yeah, blockchain was a thing. I see this. Solar was a thing. Drones were a thing. AI is definitely a hot area out there. So just yeah, of course they're all fed. I think the difference with artificial intelligence is it permeates all these different things. And of course, a lot of startups are taking advantage of this by just being something.ai. But just the concept of, dude, just the concept of having a tool where my mom is feeling lonely and she gets it to play games with her. My mom wants to learn about managing her, health. It gives her suggestions, which are actually pretty good.
I feel bad for dating people in like the dating space, like not just for myself, but just people that like they don't want to be on social media. They work at home. They don't want to use dating apps. And where are they going to meet their person if they're not on social media? Like it's just so much harder, and there's so much more competition out there because everyone is on social media now. And it's like it's like a lonely existence in a way. Like it's not how it used to be. How many people are meeting on dating apps now? It's like in the 80 or 90%. Like that's crazy. And standards are also going up. Like women are becoming more self-sustaining and individualistic. And I'm wondering if we're headed towards a society where we're all just like kind of lonely and I don't know if I want to use this word, but like in incel, like involuntarily celibate. It seems like the dating sphere has changed so much. And I feel bad for so many women that want to have kids, but they can't find the one. And then I think it's by like 35, it's considered geriatric pregnancy. It's like you spend all this time paying off your school debt and now you're finally ready to raise a family and like you can't find the right person for you. I don't know. It's just such a weird time. It's like this shared suffering that a lot of people have, whether you're a millennial or a Gen Z or even Gen Alpha now is starting to date. So I mean, I think one thing you mentioned before is interesting is just like live your life. Like sure, post on social media, but like go back to normal life, rather than being social media first and kind of trying to appease an audience and the phonies first. and just living your life. And that's why I think there is going to be this like explosion of just in-person, more human experiences.
Dude, so I spend time with extended family members, and I told you people are having kids and stuff now. They're like 3 years old. I'm not a parent. It's probably the most difficult job in the world. And especially like, as you mentioned, both spouses are working, and like maybe they don't have time for or resourcing for a nanny or whatever. So many kids that I see, they are glued to the screen. It's like crack cocaine sugar, dude. It's insane.
I met a girl recently from my extended family. I think she's 7, 8 years old, and she's almost completely nonverbal. Like she has to basically just stare at an iPad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happened here? Like, is this the parents' fault? Is this social media's fault? Like, I don't know where do we go wrong here?
Yeah.
Like, is that just normal? Do some kids just become nonverbal until a very...
I don't think so. I think we're apes. I think we know enough about our behavioral psychology. It's just, can you believe that? It's like, I'm looking at you, but I can move my head. Right? Thank God this isn't a recorded podcast or visually recorded, but like your eyes are the source of information. But as humans, we need to move our face and our eyes to like see information. In the screen, you don't need to do that. You're just in this fixed area, and all these images, like you're just going through whatever you want and without moving anything. Like that's an insane amount of stimulation, and you're doing it 3 years old, 4 years old. Like, people say, people say it could be extreme, but man, like I don't see much use for that stuff. But then it's implemented in schools. Your friends have it, like, and it's all these things are. I'm not anti-social media or anti-video game or anti-technology. Definitely not. Of course not. But I think all these things need to be used as tools. I love working out, and sometimes I work out 3 times a day.
It's the intention, right?
Yeah, but like not all the time. It's I don't think balance is the right word that I'm looking for, but intention. Yeah, intention.
Yeah. Which I think comes back to just like having strong leaders in society that like lobby for just living a healthier life that isn't filled with like lust or overconsumption or like unhealthy practices. So
that's interesting that you mentioned that. I've been thinking about it. This makes me sound like I'm done with the system and all that, but I've really just been evaluating like what is the point of this all. And you know me, I'm fairly minimalist. I'm just shedding my stuff. You're probably wearing my clothing right now. Honestly, I just shed it all. I don't like stuff. I think I probably get anxiety when I have too much stuff, and I just kind of thought about it. Everything in life we see is like an advertisement. Like everything, we're just constantly fed stuff. Like you need this, you need this, you need that. And yeah, I think a lot of things can enhance quality of life, but if it would be very interesting to see how society, and I work with young people all the time, like they're all struggling mentally. Like they went through COVID, they go through TikTok. Like these are all very damaging things for a young person, right? Just being that isolated. That's insane. Like we didn't have to do that, dude. Mm-hmm. We were before all that stuff. We got to like talk to people, right?
I remember I used to go to the park and I would lift up all the wood chips and I would get to the clay at the bottom of the playground. I would like make clay balls out of it. Like I still remember.
Yeah, for some. It's different, dude. The neighborhood was like a third place. Like people, like parents knew like each other.
I miss that.
Yeah, it's different.
A24 is making a lot of nostalgic films now. Nostalgia is a drug for sure.
Yeah. And every generation says, "Oh, it's so much better during my time," and whatever. Like we're living through both these things, kind of. But
it's like we're almost living through the best time now, and in the past, like anything in the future is not going to be as bright. But I don't want to live in that world. Yeah. I just want to. I think you just have to acquiesce to the cosmic flow, as a homeless man once told me.
Yeah. No, I'm bullish on the future. I'm bullish.
I mean, I think you saw me, like, I think when I was in Houston with you, I had like an anxiety attack and I ended up in the ER. So when I moved to Austin back in 2018, I had 3 anxiety attacks where I literally went into the ER. And every time I went to the ER, the doctor would look at me and go like, your charts are fine. Like, why are you here? I'm like, I don't know. My heart is just beating. Like, I feel like it's going to like blow up out of my chest. Like, I help me. And he's like, maybe you should go see a therapist. And so I went on this like therapy journey for 2 years after I moved here. And I finally met a really good therapist. And I think the hallmark of a good therapist is one where you see them for X number of months or years or whatever, and then you stop and you never have to see them again. Like they taught you everything that you need to know and you've outgrown them, and hopefully you've gotten better with your anxiety, but you don't have to see them anymore. I feel like a lot of people just become like perpetual patients, or they just blame it on their anxiety. But it's like anxiety is something that I think you can get over through like mindset and the right therapist and mentoring and just really getting to the root of it and just living a more peaceful life. I think that's attainable for everyone. Please download my course at w.
Did you ever do Vipassana?
I did 4 Vipassana retreats. I did 3 10 days and 1 3-day. And the first one was great. And the next 3 like were very destabilizing. Effectively what it is you meditate for 10 days without connection to the outside world. So you don't have a cell phone, you can't read, you can't write, you can't look at anyone. You eat twice a day, and you basically just meditate all day for 10 days. And it's a lot. It's a lot because you relive memories that you've had from when you were a child, which are so vivid because you're literally just, your eyes are closed and you're just sitting there and your mind is going anywhere, like anywhere it needs to go. And it's almost like a mental inventory in a way, like you're kind of like reorganizing the messy apartment that's in your mind. And it's a really cleansing thing to do. But I realized the more that I did it, the more like isolating and anxiety inducing it was. I actually wanted to do it every year. And then after the 4 that I did, I'm like, I'm just going to take a break. And I'm glad I did because I don't know, life is just so much more peaceful. It's almost like I did like a rite of passage, and now like, I don't know, life is chill.
Do you still meditate?
I don't, no. I don't meditate. I just live a normal life, really. But I try.
You live a normal life?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's debatable. Yeah, I try to meditate all the time to where like I just try to stay present all the time. Obviously, that's a cop out, but like I think it's something that I can at least do 10% better every day. Yeah. Like I might not be meditating all day, but I can be 10% more present.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't meditate either. I feel like exercise kind of does that for me.
Yeah.
Like when I'm pretty locked in, I just don't, the absence of thought.
Yeah. Exercise is probably more helpful than meditation. I mean, meditation is probably helpful too, but like I'd rather exercise.
Yeah. I think that's been very freeing too, just not being beholden to social media. So I used to have crazy morning routines, reading, meditating, all this stuff. And it's like, why am I doing this? Just really narrowing down, focusing on stuff. Honestly, I think the best morning routine is whatever works for you. Like sometimes of the year, like I wake up and just immediately open my laptop and I get to work. That's it.
Yeah.
You gotta.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not some like James Clear where I don't open my phone for the first hour and I wake up. Or like I open my phone as soon as I wake up. Like, I'll go on the record for that. I don't care.
Yeah. At 12 p.m. when he wakes up.
Yeah.
You love your sleep.
12 noon. I sleep a lot. Yeah. I actually got an Oura Ring 3 years ago, and my sleep score has steadily increased over the last 3 years. I think I started off at like 68 and I'm at like a average 80, 81 right now. I'd like to get to an 85, but yeah.
What have you noticed in your life after kind of increasing the amount of time?
I mean, energy, dude. Like sometimes you ask me, you're like, where do you get all this energy from? And I'm like, dude, sleep. Like there is nothing better than really good sleep.
Yeah. I would use my Oura Ring, but it always says it doesn't have enough data.
Undetectable. Do you even have a heart rate?
We'll see who's living 5 years from now. Maybe a year from now.
Oh shit. Let's see here. Skincare routine. Pretty simple skincare routine.
No, it's yours.
Mine is I wake up. I have like a oral routine too, but my skincare routine is I just wash my face with the CeraVe, the green one, and then at night I wash my face with CeraVe green one, and then I put moisturizer on. That's it. And then I wear sunscreen during the day. Sometimes I do retinol, but it's been making my face really red for a day or two after. So I do it like maybe once a week now. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Are you happy with the skincare results?
Yeah. I mean, do I look good or?
Next question.
Oh man. Oh no.
My mom thinks you look good.
Oh, Esteban. Yeah.
Oh wait, that's not his name. We're thinking about someone else. She's thinking about the milkman.
I wanted to talk. Let's see here. Okay, I have so many things I want to talk about.
One quick note about skincare.
Yeah.
So I think a very helpful philosophy in life is just shifting through all the noise, finding the signal, 80-20, like really understanding what matters. And with skincare, like a lot of people ask me about my skincare routine, and I've had to pay attention to, I never paid attention to it until I started road tripping America, because you know this, like I was blitzing through different terrains. Like one moment I would be in Alaska, the next moment I'd be in Florida, then I'd be in the desert in Arizona. It was a lot of probably trauma to my largest organ. But with skincare, just like everything else, with health, dude, I know people that have very elaborate skincare routines and they eat almost exclusively like junk food and eat out. And they don't exercise. They don't sweat. They stay inside. So it's just, I still think the fundamentals of health carry over to everything else. So when I go to the dentist or the dermatologist and stuff, like, even though I don't have like super robust routines, like I don't floss religiously. I should floss more, but I also don't really eat sugar, right? And I drink almost exclusively water. Like the core habits, I think carry outsized effect on like different components of health. Even the skincare stuff, like, yes, I'm Indian, I'm Asian, but also like I don't drink alcohol, right? So it's just that's I just want to share that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think speaking about
floss, and you'll notice this as you get older.
Yeah. Speaking about floss, I actually got expanding floss like 3 months ago, and it's changed my life. Like my dentist has literally told me, she's like, I've never seen your teeth so clean before, because I would get a lot of buildup right in my front teeth here, because a lot of saliva just pools right here by your bottom teeth. And I started using it. And the reason why I like it is because it doesn't feel like it's sawing through your gums. You know, like the really sharp like floss. I hate that. This is like a more papery, and it like expands when water hits it. So it like fills your whole tooth, and it feels more just right in your teeth. And it actually makes it more fun to floss too. So I do that plus the water pick, which is hopefully helping. And then sometimes I'll do a saltwater gargle too. That plus brushing my teeth for 2 minutes. Like, yeah, you cannot get your teeth back. So that's one thing. Skin is another thing. Third thing is hearing. So when I go to really loud events, I got this from Raul. I wear earplugs, and I wear them until I leave, because you know, if you lose your hearing, you can't get that back either.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that. There's so many components of this. Like our feet. That's something I learned recently. I feel like all my dress shoes. Yeah, my dress shoes are just pointed, and they're pushing my feet in. And I've always wanted a secure foot, and now I wear like a normal size, like it's 2 sizes larger than what I used to wear. Now it just feels so much more comfortable. Yeah,
grounding.
Yeah. I think it's really important. Just continuous improvement. Just like what's a Japanese term? Kaizen. I think just continuous improvement over time. Little things. Trying to be 1% better each day,
or even 0.1%. Still compounding.
Yeah, just trying to make it to the next day.
Yeah. What do you have for me?
I brought your sleeping bag.
Thank you.
And a copy of my uncle's book, which you already have.
Vanishing Kingdoms, yeah.
Great. Wait, do you have the Genghis Khan biography that I gave you for your birthday?
It's actually somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Great guy. Aren't you? Are you part Mongol?
Probably. I was 0.1%.
Wow. That guy literally went everywhere. Can you say on the record what the craziest thing you've done is? You do so much stuff. You show up at random famous people's homes, like you've screamed at people on the ferry in Chicago to promote your app. You snuck into a conference pretending to be from Europe to get free food. That might have been with me.
Yeah. It might not have been either.
Yeah. I don't do anything illegal.
I don't want to put anything incriminating on here. I think the craziest thing I've done was,
or the boldest, like
boldest.
Yeah. What is something that you're like, wow, I did that. That surprised even you. You say nothing surprises you. It's like,
yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is chicken. I can't think of anything crazier than that. It wasn't super crazy, but we basically built an app in 48 hours. And then we decided to turn it into a company because we saw that there might have been a market for it. And it was effectively like a Snapchat competitor. But what made it different was we wanted to make communication more authentic and real on the internet. And so what you do is you'd send videos back and forth to your friends. And we found a way to send videos really quickly to different people, almost as fast as a text message. And the thing was about it is once you sent the video, you couldn't unsend it. So like once it started recording, you basically had to stop it and it would automatically send the video because it's kind of like in real life where we're talking to people and you can't unsay what you just said. And our marketing behind that was really ridiculous. Like we would buy chicken costumes and we'd like sneak into rooftops and just dance on top of the roofs, like in skyscrapers. We would buy, I think we bought like 100 rubber chickens that squeaked and we'd run over them with our car and just make weird noises. We'd run up and down the street handing out cards to different people saying chicken, chicken, chicken. And we made like the font like capitalized. So it's like in your face, chicken, like be authentic, be real. And it kind of went a little viral in Austin, at least, you know, in a micro way. And so I thought that was a lot of fun. It was very bold of us to do that and to just go out on a whim and try to make something that was different. At the same time, though, this is where it comes to being in the right place at the right time too. Around the same time is when I think Loom was actually starting to take off. We built the same exact thing. We were just on mobile. Loom was more, you know, business facing. I think it was on Slack. Like it was the same exact app, was just in a different market. And so like if we built Loom and we waited just a couple more months, we would have been in the right place at the right time. And I think it would have blown up during COVID. Like we exited, or we basically turned off the company as soon as COVID started. So who knows where it would have been now. So I guess another piece of advice is like, you might be ahead of your time. And so make sure that you give it a fair trial and make sure that you have enough time to actually test the market to see if there's a market for it. Because it might be the right idea, but just wait a couple months and then try it again. So
that's good
with the market. Yeah.
Good advice. What advice would you give to I want to say, let's keep you an adult, 18-year-old Stefan?
To myself at 18.
Is 18 the right age? Yeah, let's just say young Stefan.
I was very rambunctious at 18. I was in a really bad relationship. I was extremely jealous. I was very controlling with my ex-girlfriend, and she basically like ran my whole life. Like she was like the center of everything. And I'm so glad that she broke up with me right before I went to college because I was like obsessed with her. Like I couldn't live without her. And then once I broke up with her, it just like crushed my whole world. And so if I go back, I would tell younger Stefan at 18, you shouldn't be feeling like this. You shouldn't be feeling worked up and jealous. Like life should be peaceful. Like you're not going to realize it for another 13 years, but you're going to realize that this is not the person for you and you shouldn't be feeling anxious like this. What's the quote about anxiety? And if someone is making you feel anxious, that means that they have control over you. And I don't want anyone to have control over me. I want to have control and autonomy over myself. So that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, that's a shocker. Yeah. This guy. I'm the CEO. No co-CEOs. 18-year-old Stefan.
Yeah. Relationships, man. I like did a deep dive on relationships and I started watching, it's called Couples Therapy. It's a show about a couple coming into a psychotherapist's office and they interview and they basically record the whole thing. There's no cuts. There is no filter or rhyme or reason to it. They just talk about whatever they want. And it's just really eye-opening to see what people go through. And it kind of humbles you and makes you realize that, oh, maybe my problems aren't so bad. Like this person is dealing with like infidelity or a stillborn or their sexual identity. Like, I don't know. It's just such a fascinating show and I really like it.
Gratitude is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the very fact that this is how we get to spend an evening. I mean, what a great thing to do.
Yeah. On Saturday night, I could be out drinking some old fashions right now, but I'm here with you.
Yeah. I could be out drinking
water.
This
is a PG podcast.
I still am drinking water. But gratitude is everything. Gratitude is everything. Just health and just the ability to live.
Yeah, I mean, I think 10 years ago, like life was a lot different for us.
Yeah. We were sleeping WeWork bathrooms,
Yeah,
couches.
crazy.
It was crazy. It was a good time. But when I talk about my early startup days with people like you and my other co-founder, people are like, oh my God, that's so scary. Like this seems so difficult. You guys are so broke. And maybe we were just young and dumb, but I was having the time of my life.
It was a good time. And I think, like, if I could go back, would I do it again? I would probably do it a little differently. But it also just builds character and, like, allows you to feel like you're scrappy and, like, I don't know, it was fun.
Yeah, I don't think anything is impossible. And
But creature comforts are nice right now, like in my early 30s, for sure. I feel like having a bed and stuff.
I don't need a bed. I don't need clothes. That's part of the reason I did the road trips. People are like, why'd you go through all this stuff and hike and camp? I just want to see if I still had it.
Yeah, practice, yeah.
Just like, can I still be comfortable being uncomfortable?
But in, like, the back of your mind, you know that, like, you have access to whatever you need to, you know? So it makes it a little easier. You're not off the hook completely.
Not off the hook completely, but I think it's a useful practice. And like, the founder of Stoicism, I think it was Zeno. He was the rich dude who went to sea. He had like all of his possessions with him and he got shipwrecked. And then that's when he decided to not let his emotions take control of him, but control how he reacted to them.
You're like, is this the condition that I so fear?
Yeah. So I think that's just key to building mental strength, is just limiting materialism, and really focusing on what matters. Like most of the things that I like in life, again, I'm not saying I'm cheap. They're just not expensive. Good relationships, they're expensive in terms of like the time and effort that you invest in them.
And just like searching for that too.
Yeah, searching for, like, exactly, time, right? And effort, right? Your health, same thing. Like it's like me buying expensive gym equipment doesn't translate necessarily into the effort and time that I need to put into getting a body. It could be a step on that way. So I think just like really focusing on that has been, yeah, and just mindset, dude. Like staying positive, being happy. Like we get one life. We have no idea what happens before birth or after death. It's like we're just here,
but we don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know. So we're just here. Like, might as well just do things that make you happy.
Yeah. Enjoy life. Are there any fears you have right now? I know we talk about how fearless we are, but like, what fears do you actually have right now?
I think the fear is I haven't been really able to concretely elaborate on what it is my dream is. And I think it would be a damn shame if I lived the rest of my life, or my life ended prematurely, if I didn't really figure out what that is. I think every person will know it when they find it. So life has been really, really good to me. And honestly, if life continued like this, it would be fine. But that's always been nagging at the back of my head.
Well, let me ask you this question now, since we're on this topic. If the universe orchestrated your entire life to deliver one specific gift to the world, what would it be? Specific gift.
The first thing that comes to mind is joy.
Like being a beacon of light to the world or to someone else.
100%.
Yeah. Hope.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I don't think we have enough of that, especially in the media.
I think one of the reasons I'm good at my job is I do care about people. And this is the side of the job that no one really talks about. Everyone talks about how much money we raise and our valuation and all the amazing technologies and business models that people are working on. But the other side of it is, I mean, every summer, multiple students break down and cry. Young people, as we mentioned earlier, have so many things going on. I mean, life's hard. Life's hard, dude. Life's hard. People die. Family pass. Relationships are tough. maintaining your mental and physical sanity, like
inflation,
right? Like everything's tough. So it's just being there for people. Yeah, bringing joy and hope and the ability to believe in yourself. And maybe don't let me put words in your mouth, but I feel like whenever I talk to you, I try to let you know that who you are and what you're doing is super cool. And it's not me being facetious. Like, I think there are aspects of every person that I can admire and be inspired by. And I think it's important for people to hear that.
Yeah. I do that exercise sometimes, like rosebud thorn. Have you ever done that before?
All the time. That's like the classic employee feedback. So
giving a rose to people.
Yeah. Just sandwich the criticism.
I think a rose for you is just how supportive you are and how open to supporting you are to people. It's really hard to come by. Like, it's almost like a really close family member. Like, you're almost like a very close family member. Like, if I could, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I mean, my mom is another example of that, where I feel like so supported, and like whatever it is I want to do, like, it's just nice to feel that. And I don't think enough people feel that. And there's not enough people in people's lives for them to feel that.
Yeah.
Like, if there's one Manu out there for everyone, that'd be cool.
That would be terrifying.
And mostly terrifying, actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. I think brotherhood has been very important to me. In the world of business, there's no shortage of people lecturing about teams and the importance of teams. Like, startups die from suicide, not from homicide, right? But these same people, they're the ones like, hey, you've given your brothers this many chances. You're working on, this thing with your friends. You're non-confrontational with this person or that. You are, perhaps letting certain behaviors with certain people go on. Like, you don't set boundaries, and that's all fair. But I think the thing is, like, when you're guiding people and you're leading people, you can't expect them to have the same level of like emotional intelligence as you, and you kind of have to take a step back and not necessarily be the bigger person, but see the bigger picture. And what you just mentioned, dude, like with brotherhood, it's ride or die. We talked earlier about how relationships are changing, and you just spend less time with your friends as they get older and take on different priorities in life. And one day will be the last day that you shake hands with a person, or you hug that person, or you call that person, or whatever. That's just going to happen. But ride or die for me, it's just there are acquaintances and people that run through life, and I think that's kind of probably where some of the loneliness comes from. But there are people like you, for example. Just, I know I can call on you for anything, and I have people, like a lot of people like that. Like, I'm in town, I need help. Like, I need to use your couch, I need to talk to you. And the hardest part about young Manu was I never was vulnerable. I was a tough guy, and I didn't want anyone's help. I feel like I seek out help a lot now. I call people for strength. And so it all comes back. People say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a man or a woman, or especially a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, people can be the most draining. So you got to pick wisely.
I mean, I think too much time with anyone will do that to you. Right?
We spent a month in Africa.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Sleeping together.
A lot of hotels, a lot of tents, a lot of food, a lot of cake, a lot of hiking, walking, water, electrolytes.
There's not a single person in the world that I'd rather do with Arsta. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's so cute.
It's just the energy of close relationships needs to match. Like, and what I mean by that is, spend too much time with someone, you're right, there's going to be conflict. That's just going to happen. You lock us in a room, like, something's going to happen.
Wait, I want to talk about this for a second, because I was thinking about this recently. Actually, I actually just thought about it right now too. Like, I have people in my life where if I spend too much time with them, like I never want to talk with them again, but then I just need space. And it's like creating that space allows me to want to hang out with them and talk with them again, because sometimes it just gets too much where it's like, oh my God, like I never want to talk to this person again. It's like, I feel like I can be extreme like that where I can be that person, but it's like, no, like, let me just sit with these feelings. Let me look at it after a week or two and then come back to it. Cause I mean, we all need our own personal space at the end of the day.
Space is so important.
Yeah. Sometimes we just let it bottle up for too long that it just becomes like an extreme reaction almost.
Yeah. You need your own life.
Yeah.
100%.
Esther Perel talks about like in relationships, like it's more important time apart than time together.
Yeah.
Speaking of relationships, what are some takeaways from dating relationships for you?
I think relationships can't be a side quest. I think
like romantic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I think
side quest. Yeah, it's like side chick.
like no, it's just you really need to put effort into it. And I think for me, I've always just it's 6 months training here, and then I'm doing firefighter training. It's all
there's an end to it. Exactly. But no, this is like a free flowing river that never stops.
So that's been a really big takeaway. It's just you can't and that's why it's an important decision, because it's going to be there hopefully for the rest of your life.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm putting way too much importance on it, where like I need this person to be as close to perfect as possible. But I'm okay with that because it's not perfect in the definition of like this person is a cherub from a different heaven. Like I'm talking about like this person is perfect for me. It might not be perfect for you or for someone else, but like to me, this person is just perfect, even with their quirks and their weaknesses and everything. And I love talking about this, but at the same time, like I haven't really experienced that, so I don't know what it feels like. I just know that like I know what I don't want, so I'm kind of trying to avoid that instead of beating myself up over it.
I think that's good advice in general in life, figuring out what you don't like.
Yeah, and it's hard too because like you meet so many people and say, oh, if this person just wasn't this, or if this person wasn't an alcoholic, or if this person didn't do this, like, you know.
Yeah, and it's worse than ever today.
Yeah. It's like you want to make a Mrs. Potato Head out of 5 different relationships. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool. Is it the Mrs. Potato Head, huh?
Yeah. I see where you're going.
Where are you at? Slide in my DMs.
Oh, God. Any other takeaways?
So many, man. I think relationships have probably taught me the best in life.
Especially bad ones, right? And good ones, or
I don't really like to categorize relationships as bad or good.
Or axing than others.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a relationship, I think both good and bad. Every relationship has good and bad components, and I think all of those are just teaching moments. And that's why space is so important, because at least for me, the hardest thing in a relationship is disassociating me with like the situation or the conflict enough and getting enough space and time to really think through things and reflect, right? It takes time, and it's uncomfortable, and it's tough. And that the time and space, it's hard to get in a relationship sometimes. I think it's also important to maintain your identity. So the things that you enjoy, like, don't give them up. I think it's important. You don't need to share all the same interests, but it would be cool to see like that. I think the other, these are all probably obvious, but one of the most important things is the ability to truly like put someone else first, and not expect anything.
First as in before you, or first as in first priority position?
First priority. Yeah, just love, essentially, like taking care of someone, making them the number one priority. That's a very difficult thing. It's a really difficult thing to empathize with another human completely. Like, you're my boy, you're my brother, but I mean, I don't know, like, if you're upset, like, I'm not gonna cry. Like, it's not really gonna bother me. Like, we'll figure it out and we'll shake hands and we'll move on. But in a relationship, it's difficult.
Yeah. I think there's some temperance that you need in a relationship too when it comes to talking about your feelings and open communication. Like, I'm all about open communication, but there is a time and a place for if there's a lot of conflict in one of the people, like, I think it's important for them to go see a therapist or do like a couples therapy thing. Like, I just feel like if I'm in a relationship where someone is becoming very overly emotional over like a very chronic amount of time, like I feel like that might be more like a therapist thing to work on, because like I don't want to be your full-time therapist. Like I want to be there for you through everything, but there's people more qualified, people that are more just educated on how to fix that. Like maybe I'm not the right person to help you get through this.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point too.
Communicating.
Yeah, it's just such a tall order being in a relationship, because like all of a sudden, like you're everything, right? You're the default therapist, sleeping buddy, travel buddy, eating, like you're just everything, right? By default.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And there's no way you're going to hit all those things. And then there's life, and then your relationship with yourself. It's just, it's very difficult. And yeah, maybe we're being overly analytical about it, but I think it's perhaps one of the most important decisions a human can make.
Or not make.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about jealousy. I don't know why. It came to my mind. I used to be a very jealous person, like back when I was 18. Like my girlfriend was, for lack of a better word, not my property, but like I was just very territorial about her. And it was almost like a ravenous territorialism where like if anyone even like got close, like I would like this like primal Stefan would come out. And I realized like I shouldn't have to feel like this. Like I think jealousy doesn't have to be such a strong feeling in my life. And so one of the things that I started doing in the last 5 or 10 years when it comes to dating is like, if I found myself jealous, especially if like I was jealous about someone else, whether it's this other person is like hitting on my girlfriend or like I'm just jealous of their lifestyle, what I would do is I would put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, do I want to be this person wholly and fully? Like, do I want to be the 100% this person? And like the answer is always no. Like I want to be myself. I would not want to be 100% that person. So it kind of just nullifies the jealousness in that way.
Love that.
Yeah. It's helped a lot. And just, I guess, going through relationships where it kind of tested my envy and jealousy too has helped me get over that, because I realized like I don't want to feel like I'm being tested. There's this whole idea of like the shit test. Like a lot of people talk about that now, or the ick. Like I don't want to be with someone who's gonna shit test me, whether it's advertently or inadvertently. Like that's just very childish. And it's like you kind of have to go through the ring of fire in order to realize that like that's not the right type of person for you. So I just wanted to mention that.
I'm glad you mentioned the whole comparison thing. It truly is the thief of joy. I think that's reflected in social media and just life in general. Like I think an uncomfortable truth of a lot of people is a lot of people are jealous. Like in my heart of hearts, like, dude, I hope you make this movie and I hope it like win an Oscar, because I want to brag about you. I do. Like I also like the movie making business, but you becoming more successful, like that's awesome, you know. But it's very difficult for a lot of people. It's very difficult. I used to be, you know, like I used to compare myself all the time. I mean, I was in the fitness industry. Like that's all it's based on.
Yeah,
you're literally I'm on stage being compared to other dudes right next to me, all oiled up.
A weird sport, right? Hey, this person has nicer musculature.
No, this one does. But and that's why I probably have, you know, lifelong body dysmorphia.
I'm starving, bro. Are you really? No, I'm not starving, but I could eat for sure. I could always eat. We made like a sheet of paper with all of our stuff on it. I basically gave him some homework. I'm like, write down 10 ideas, questions, things you want to talk about, and I'll do the same. And yeah, we've been talking for a while. I've actually missed doing this type of format. I haven't done a podcast in a really long time.
Yeah, I don't miss this at all.
Wow.
This guy always asking me these questions.
Yeah, I like questions. So one thing that I guess would like to highlight is just embracing youth. So when I was in London this year, I'm like, man, I haven't taken a lot of photos of myself recently. I know it's very self-centered to say, but I want to like look back on my life and like know that I've lived a fun and youthful life and celebrated the fact that I'm young. Like we're not young, we're not old, we're somewhere in between, but like we're not going to get any younger. So it's like, can we just celebrate as much of our youth as we can? So at least we have a story to tell when we're older. So yeah, that's why I did that photo shoot, was to just remind myself of my youth and just have fun with it.
Yeah, you look so young on those photos.
Yeah, that's cap.
Shave that goatee, dude.
Oh my God. I think having that, just the North Star being peace, right? Like, what a North Star to have. It's almost like a magnet. Like, I'm going to optimize for peace and everything else is going to fall into place because I can just operate from an optimal level that way.
Easier said than done. Like I said earlier, it's just the battle within.
Yeah.
You know, some days like I feel good and some days I don't feel good, but no matter what, you got to get through the day, you know?
Yeah. I think the battle thing though, like, sure, there's mental battles we have, but how many of those are just constructive? Like in the real world, everything is neutral. Like, sure, there's wars, there's famine, there's all these things, but if we look around right now, like everything just is what it is. We're in just a neutral situation. So it's like, what type of filter do you want to put on it? Do you want to put a positive filter on? Do you want to put a negative filter on? Like, I want to live in a world where every single time I'm putting a positive filter on it, even if I'm disabled or I'm, just less fortunate. Like, how can I just live a life where I'm just more positive about everything?
Yeah, makes a huge difference.
And it might not be a filter where it's 100% filter. It might just be a 10% or 20% happier filter. It doesn't have to be something drastic. Like, can we just see the world a little bit better every single day?
Yeah. And perhaps that's the ultimate mental model, because mental models are there to help you make decisions. And maybe a better word for an alternative word for battle is decisions. Like, we're always trying to, like, everything we do in life is a decision. The words I'm saying to you, the very fact that we sat down and doing this, if we're going to get food after this, like, all the choices, we're making so many choices each day. There's so many choices each day. And it's just making good choices that lead to that North Star.
Yeah. And they say good judgment comes from bad judgment. So make bad choices too, to realize that you shouldn't do that again. Hopefully. Another thing too is to avoid anything incontrovertible, like getting a bad tattoo, being in a relationship where someone gets pregnant, then you don't want to be in that relationship anymore, going to jail, incarceration, losing a limb, losing your life, just killing someone. Don't do anything like that.
Yeah. Just be dumb, not that dumb.
Yeah. It'll be overly dumb.
Our level of dumb. It's hard to get here.
Yeah.
You'll know when you're here. You can't lick once you're